Brother Muddy, how's it going?
Hey, Carl. Good to see you, man. Looking good. I like your setup.
Thank you, thank you. You know I've been working hard at it. We are about to unleash Untapped Genius. So, yeah, you and I both know what it takes to put together something like this, right?
Yeah, and I know that you've been, thinking about how best to share your work as Untapped Genius and how best to work with others. But, before we even talk about the work, I'd be interested to hear just a little bit about your story and kind of what got you into coaching and maybe even more what introduced you to the idea of coaching. Or I don't know, I always get inspired when I hear you share your story and kind of the struggles that you've come through a little bit, and some of the things that you figured out along the way and then decided like this really works and I want to share this with others. So without taking the 20-minute version, feel free to take a couple minutes and just walk us back and, what got you into this kind of work.
Sure. Well, first of all, I've always been a coach, whether I realized it or not. I remember in high school, it'd be my friends and I talking about what's going on in their lives and listening, giving some feedback, ideas, and whatnot. So when the profession became a reality with Thomas Leonard, about, gosh, how many years ago now? It's like, oh, well, I'm already doing that. And part of what drives that, my passion for life, and being extraordinary. I don't know if you remember the TV show $6 Million Man, where they had to rebuild him with bionic parts, right? And he could run like a cheetah, see a mile away. And every Friday night, I'd have pizza 3 feet in front of that TV, and I'd be watching that thing, dreaming of being $6 Million Man, right? There's other guys, Evil Knievel, all sorts of folks that inspired me. And so when I went for my passion, which I've had quite a few, I started skiing when I was 4 years old. Football was a big deal for me too. I was a quarterback and a running back on some little league teams. That was great. But then I started playing guitar at age 6 years old. And I used my mom's guitar, which was actually my cousin Bobo's 72 Sunburst Fender Stratocaster. And I loved it. So she had her first lesson that week. I said, hey, Ma, can you teach me what you showed me? And she showed me where to put the fingers and stuff. And I was just like instantly hooked. And so, long story short, for the next 30 years, I pursued music. Number one passion. However, I came to realize that there's some stuff getting in the way from being that $6 million extraordinary person, right? And it turns out that I have had cognitive issues that used to plague me. They're still with me now, but it's a whole different relationship with those things because of the work that I've put together trying to help fix some of these glitches. What are they? Memory, dyslexia, ADD, lack of focus. Yes. But my number one complaint was being in having fog brain, actually, just not being able to think, being out of it, right? And so, like many people, when there's an issue, you go to fix it. And so I read all the self-help books, over 300 of them, personal growth seminars, Tony Robbins, name it. I loved it all, right? But it did not help me. I was still stuck, still stuttering, and not able to express myself. And this really showed up, well, in every facet of my life, including socializing. I ended up having massive social anxiety because I was already shy. I was already born highly, highly sensitized. And then you put on top of that brain problems. And then I got to be in front of people with all that going on. So it fed into itself. And so the social anxiety and whatnot, it was a big deal in my life.
I can imagine
Biggest pain,
something like that could be almost debilitating, right? Because it kind of feeds on itself, and it's like
That's right.
the
That's right. But the number one pain point for me was pursuing my passion, guitar. And I wanted to be the next George Benson. I don't know if you know who he is, but he's got this certain style in improvising unlike anybody else. And so he was my number one inspiration for guitar. So I ended up having probably, oh gosh, I've had 20, 30 different teachers. I've been to 3 different music schools. And the strangest thing is that I would practice 10 to 12 hours every day, totally committed. And yet I had to watch all the other students get better, but I wasn't. As a matter of fact, it's feeding into itself. The harder I worked, the worse I got at the music. It's like, I describe it as like a flow stutter, and I have not seen another musician do this outwardly, except for these little signs from here and there, but I would probably make 100 to 200 little errors when I'd even play the simplest song. Actually, paradoxically, the simpler the song, the more space my mind had for messing up the music. And so then it's like, well, what's wrong with me? And again, I went to the doctors. I would take brain supplements, these things called nootropics, right? And it just, nothing worked. So I gave up. But meanwhile, I was developing this body of work I call Life as a Wave. And it combines principles of physics of waves, something called cymatics. What a wonderful, fascinating world, right? And then I started combining some ideas with music and things that I learned in electrical engineering. I got into electrical engineering studies for a while. And little did I know that I was going to be learning things that would eventually end up in my personal growth framework here. Could never have predicted it. Now, today, you see the drums here. I brought music back. And I don't know how this is going to sound, but every day I amaze myself like, oh, look at what I can do now, right? And so it's redefined what's possible for me. And now, as I share it with others, people who have things that get in the way of doing their thing, living their passion, getting to their next level of skills and abilities, right? And people suffering with doubts, fears, am I good enough? What are people going to think? How's it going to turn out? All that stuff. This Life as a Wave thing is just, I'm kind of in love with it in a way. It sounds really weird, but it's yeah.
You were talking about this term that you came up with as a flow stutter. And it was interesting as I was listening to you talk about music and talk about people getting, better and seeing that progression and just hearing that word kind of flow stutter. I've heard that word flow, and I can picture times when you're talking about doing your passion, right? And from the time I've known you, I've seen your passion come through, and living your life to the fullest is something that you are passionate to help other people do as well. But, I've heard this term flow come up a number of times, and I can imagine this state of performance where it's like everything else drops away. But can you just talk for a minute about what that, what your experience has been like when you find those moments? And I'm guessing with the drums, and when you surprise yourself, it is those moments where you are kind of feeling that flow or getting into that flow. Or you just share a little bit more about that idea of being in flow?
Yes. Flow to me is, by definition, when we are performing at our best. And it's effortless, or nearly so, and it always feels amazing. It's built in, it's intrinsic to this thing called flow. So for folks like me who are interested in peak performance, to put it one way, to be at our best, to be able to express ourselves to the fullest, flow is the key, and the experience and the joy of it all. Instead of saying anything else, how about I just show you?
Yeah, right on. I'm game.
All right. So you see my drums here. What I'm going to do, just for fun, I'm going to just do a quick little, what I call a double pattern. So each drum I'm going to hit twice with my hands, right? Now, The opposite of being in flow is what I call being in controller mode. There's a part of my brain, and I came to discover the central issue that caused all these different things, from the ADD and the dyslexia and all the flow stutter. My controller part of my brain became trigger happy. The controller is driven by a protective element of who we are. I call it the slippery mind. And its only job is to protect us. So if there's a perceived threat of any kind, it will have you grab onto the steering wheel tighter to try and control things. I didn't know this was going on. And I didn't know that I was actually reinforcing that the more I practiced. I was practicing in control mode, not flow mode, as I call it.
That
Then
probably speaks to that idea of that simpler song showing up as well, because I heard you say when there was simpler song, there was more space for your mind.
That's it.
To try and take the reins, right?
Yes. Yes. So for anybody who can relate to thinking a little bit too much about stuff or working too hard, trying to make things happen, boy, yes, that is the controller. Now, the cool thing is that I finally discovered, and I made that distinction, controller versus flower. And so then at times I could experience maybe a brief second or two of flow, but then the controller would come right back on. And it's when it's on, it's fully clamped on and I can't get out of it. All right. Then I got into the stage where I was able to start perpetuating flow for a little bit longer. And then the little controller thing would kick in, but not quite as often. And then ultimately, and this is still, I'm forever the student. It's forever something that I get to grow in capacity with and fine tune and hopefully move towards mastery with this stuff. But I've had experiences where the flow kicks in permanently. Like 4, 5, 6 hours I will drum and I'm perpetually there. And it's, I don't have any words to describe how exciting that is. So let me have a little fun here. And knowing that I'm on camera, remember that controller could say, uh-oh, and it might try and grab my hands. And it might as I do this. And if so, okay. But here we go. We'll just do a quick little sample of the double pattern. And I'm going to try and do something that I wanted to do, be able to play and sing at the same time, like sing James Taylor songs on the guitar, right? I couldn't even come close. I couldn't even play the chords properly or even remember the words or sing on key, all of which I can do now. So let's just have a little fun. And as I play, I'm going to attempt to talk at the same time, and that's one sign of being in flow. The controller cannot handle doing two different things at the same time like this, right? And I'm just going to just mix up the pattern a little bit. I'm going to speed it up just a little bit. That's flow. And I couldn't do that my whole life. And with these principles of life as a wave, it's given me the tools. Real-time feedback for me is the thing that enables me to check in. Am I in controller mode or flower mode? It's the feel of my hands. If they feel bouncy and they feel like they're floating, it's a good sign. Things of that nature. Oh, when I'm talking, that's another one. And as I speed up, remember one of the 3 E's of flow: easy or effortless, extraordinary output, and enjoyable. And so one of the tests I do is as I speed up the rhythm, what should happen to the effort?
Wait.
Go ahead. I know, I get all excited.
That is, there's something really rich there with this. And so 2 things I heard, and I think they're probably related, but you talked a little bit about this kind of real-time feedback of being able to sense or understand or observe maybe when you are in flow or not. But these 3 E's, I mean, that feels like solid gold there. This idea of things that you can check in with and that they're tangible, that it's effortless. And I'm sure we'll, in future conversations, have a chance to dig into this a little bit more, but you already mentioned it earlier that the harder you tried, the worse you got. And I'm guessing that ties into this idea of effortless, right? It feels effortless versus you're working at it. But then extraordinary output, and we'll dig into that more in future conversations as well. But also I forget the E word you used, enjoyable, right? But there's
Yeah.
joy. You're having fun,
Yes.
and
No better
I've never
feeling in the
really
world than
heard
being
it.
in flow.
I've never really heard it distilled that way, but absolutely, I can relate to that. Times when I have felt, even if I didn't have the right language at the time, as I think back to it, yeah, it felt like it was easy, it was extraordinary, and it was enjoyable all the way. That's good stuff right there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I just said, there's no better feeling than being in flow, no matter what you are in flow with.
Now, here's a question, and I don't want to give away the farm. I don't want to dive
Okay.
into life as a wave and the content, because I know it is a body of work, and you and I have talked many times, and I've gleaned so much amazing stuff. And I know for folks who participate in these one-on-one conversations with you or participate in this mastermind, there's so much in there, teaching and coaching and resources that you provide. But I first want to ask you about who kind of who you have found Untapped Genius as a company, as your kind of a way that you're serving in the world, and specifically with this Untapped Genius Mastermind program. I've heard you talk about high performers, right? And does that mean that you have to be a top level athlete or CEO level? What does that
Oh God,
mean
no.
about
Oh God,
being
no.
peak performance, right?
Oh, it's so
Could it be
simple. It's
anything?
much. Oh, it's so much simpler and accessible. It's simply anybody who wants to be good at what they do. It really comes down to that. And I have always, like I mentioned with $6 Million Man and whatnot, I've always loved learning how to do stuff. Now, I'm sure you've noticed on Facebook sometimes these videos of people doing amazing things,
I
flips
love it.
and bike trick,
Love
right?
it.
What's the one universal thing that exemplifies? Every single one of them are in flow. Every single one of them. And that is the key. Now, a lot of people, myself included, have been played with. Am I good enough? Or I don't have it in me. I'm not talented. I don't have good rhythm, I used to say. Are you sure about that now, Carl? Right? To me, that was pretty good rhythm. It turns out rhythm is built into who we are. This notion of untapped genius, I'm not talking about having the right genes or being lucky or being the Einsteins of the world. I'm actually referring to the built-in abilities that are found in the mind and body that I had no idea about. And that's redefined how I look at myself. So yeah, simple answer to your question is anybody who wants to be at their best or get good at anything that they love, or their work, their play, it doesn't matter. It could be juggling, it could be singing, it could be giving a wonderful presentation as an entrepreneur or business person. It's all just one thing.
I love that. And I have, it's interesting because the people I have found that I've connected with through life, that is something that we share. I think that's this commonality that you want to be, you strive for excellence, right? And there's a lot of people that go through this world that don't have that, right? They're just kind of going through the motions, and that's okay with them. And I'm not giving any judgment to that at all.
No.
But this probably isn't a good fit for that. But for all the people who are like, I know that I have more, I know that I can serve more, I know that I can be more, I know that I can get better, and I want to, but stuff gets in the way. This is the kind of program for them, right?
Absolutely. And there's always going to be stuff that gets in the way, right? Life happens, and then I have to deal with it, right? And there's always what happens, the crises, the unexpected problems, the to-dos, all that kind of stuff. But then what I found is, yeah, we're always going to have that stuff. Life is pretty messy, right, and challenging. The key for me is making the distinction between what's going on versus what my mind makes it mean, which is then the creator of the stress, the worry, anxiety, doubts, fears, and all that stuff. And once I made that distinction, and part of the skill for me is to be able to identify what domain am I in here? And what am I making things mean? And that's the work involved, I have found. It really, so in the end, what's getting in the way? My mind, right? My slippery mind. It's just trying to protect me, right?
You have developed so many amazing, practical, accessible tools to help people who are in that same situation when, when the slippery mind gets in the way. And however, and I look forward to talking more and more about that. But for this first initial conversation, we've talked a little bit about your story. We've talked a little bit about flow and how to observe that, how to notice that. This program and working with you will help people develop tools to overcome the things that get in the way, to do their thing to the fullest, right? And be their best.
That's it.
How can folks get on the list to find out when the doors open for this program?
They can go to members.untappedgenius.com, and it describes the program in detail. Click any of the buttons there and you'll see a pop-up come up, and you can just add your name and email to the wait list. This is actually happening sooner than I thought. We're going to be opening the doors. I don't have a specific date, but we are 4 to 7 days away. It's less than a week. We are opening the doors, and it's going to be a special deal for the founding members. The folks that are most passionate about this kind of topic. They are going to be able to help shape the experience of the membership. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, doors are opening up to founding members in less than a week.
One of the first times I ever heard you talk, I knew right away, this is someone I want to get to know better. I could sense this spark in you, this intrigue, and it's like, this is a person that is loving life and is kind of leaning in to share what they've learned along the way. And so for those that are watching this video, if you have kind of noticed that or felt that, let me tell you from my experience, don't hesitate to learn and to share and to work with Carl, because it's been awesome for me, and I'm so thrilled to see you formalizing this in a way that can really reach more people and serve more people, because I know the impact. I've seen the impact that these tools have had in your life. I've seen the way that you've been able to share in a simple, straightforward, understandable way and make these tools available. I put a lot of these tools that I've learned from you into practice on a daily basis. Absolutely. That's awesome. And it's made a huge impact in my life. So for anyone who's watching this and it's just like, I don't know what I don't know, but I'm intrigued, listen to that and just trust your gut.
Yeah.
And
what we're gonna do in the beginning is we're gonna start off simple. So every week we're going to do 2, 3, even 4 hours of training. People show up, I'm going to just stay on camera, and we're going to dive into these life as a wave principles and how we can start practicing and applying these to, doing our thing to the fullest. So, you know how excited I am about this. I'm actually holding myself back right now. It's been a 25 years in the making, right? And I could not imagine anything else in my life. This is it, baby. So we're about to take off here. So
I'm thrilled. Awesome. Thanks so much for taking a few minutes to talk with me today, Carl. It's been awesome, man. I'm thrilled. Looking forward to our next conversation.
Thanks, Monty. Big fun.